What is your My House is Haunted story? Episode 2. A house that my mom, stepdad, and I lived in years ago, was once a meth lab where many people died in an explosion. This house always gave off creepy feelings. The first day we were there, I noticed blood smeared on the back door, and I thought nothing of it, thinking maybe it was just mud, but this was in the dead of winter. Next, I was woken up in the middle of the night by a gibberish being, which spewed into my ears and a hard, firm tug on my leg. That couldn't have been a spasm, because it pulled my entire body across my bed. We'd all wake up with several scratches on us. We didn't own a cat, but we had a Boston Terrier that had never scratched us before living there, so we didn't think it was her. My mom and I had been hissed at by something. The first time was when she was going to bring the laundry in the basement and home alone. She told me she screamed out loud and went into the dining room and immediately called my stepdad trying to get him to come home from work. The inside window of the dining room decided to explode, and the outside one was intact. After we moved out, our distant cousins moved in. They had told us they experienced similar things before we ever mentioned having anything happening when we lived there. Couldn't pay me enough money in the world to get me to live there again. The kids' toys would get rearranged, but in ways, the kids couldn't do it. For example, there was a music box or a shape sorter thing, you had to put the blocks in to make it work. One day, the blocks were just gone. We lived in a tiny house, and I was super meticulous about cleaning up the playroom. It was a big deal to me. So, one evening, I'm cleaning the play area. I put the box away, and the little blocks were lost. I tore the room apart, searching for them, looked around the house. I checked everywhere. The next day, I walked by the play area, and the blocks were stacked on the very top of the shelves where no one could reach. Another time it was a toy with plastic boulders again, putting the toys away, the balls were nowhere. I do the same searching as before and finally, give up. A couple of days later, I took the baby to put her to bed, and they were just sitting in the middle of the floor in the nursery. A lot of things like that almost always with toys. But the other crazy thing was that a lot of the pictures of my daughter we took in that house has a slight shine right above her head and to the right. Nobody else. Just the other day, I'm standing in my kitchen. The light is on in the basement, I'm looking in the general direction of the basement door, and I see a shadow pass across the light that's showing from under the door. I double take, and sure enough, the shadow passes again. At this point, I'm pretty freaked out, and I grab my buck knife just in case someone is squatting, and I need to protect myself. I open the door, and there's nothing visible that could have made the shadow. I go further downstairs and take a left. To the right is my boiler room. I check the closets that I have there for storing random crap as some of the stuff is on the floor, and out of the corner of my eye, I see her. It's my dead grandma come back to haunt me. She's standing or floating in the boiler room doorway, and I sprint back up the stairs. I shut off the light and lock the door hoping I don't have to deal with that shit ever again. I haven't been down there since. Every time I have friends over, I would hear PSST, PSST like someone is near my ear. Literally, every time. There are times also when friends would tell me someone is walking outside the house, at midnight. One midnight, I was out in the kitchen with a friend. We were talking, but we were on opposite corners of the kitchen. Suddenly, we both stopped. I saw a shadow walked from another corner, behind him, then disappeared into the dark living room. When I looked at my friend, he was looking at me like we saw the same thing. I was watching movies with friends in our living room, which has a high ceiling and opens up to the family room on the second floor. I heard my brother's room door open, I heard him call my name, I even shouted yes. Then I heard footsteps running from their room towards the stairs, and down the kitchen. I was waiting for him to show up. But no one showed up at the bottom of the stairs. The following day, I asked him about it, he said they were asleep. None of my friends heard the same thing. Usually, these things only happen when I am with friends. I usually stay awake till morning because my college degree requires me to. Still, I never experienced anything when I was alone. My aunt always tells me I have a friend in our house who doesn't enjoy others' company. My damn pizza cutters. We have been in our house for about 10 years, and our pizza cutters just disappear. At first, we didn't think anything about it, just lost it and got another one. Not too long after that, it's gone too. Now I'm thinking it's a little strange, I can't find it, looked everywhere. Got another one thinking, this one better not disappear. I don't even know if I got to use that one before it was gone. I then bought a cheap one from the dollar store and said, watch, this one be gone soon, and before I knew it, gone. There might have been a couple more, but you get the idea. I have searched everywhere in my kitchen. I painted the cabinets last year and had them completely taken apart. All drawers pulled out, the stove was moved, There was nowhere they could be hidden and still no sign of the pizza cutters. Since then, I have not bought another one and I've just kind of accepted we can't have a pizza cutter. We still have the original utensils from when we first moved in together 14 years ago, but I can't keep a pizza cutter. So, we have this mirror in our front living room, and when I was a kid, I had my best friend stay over, and he looked at the mirror and said he saw an old guy sitting on the couch. I said it might have been my grandpa and told him he was a racist. My friend is black, and grandpa was Native American, but hated every race. Years later, I'm still friends with my friend and all his family members. They were like a second family. Well, his brother came over, who was about a year younger than him, but it had been a while, so he decided to stay the night, and we could play some PlayStation. He looks in the mirror and sees the old guy too and gets freaked out. I told him what I told my friend. I'm pretty convinced my grandpa likes to mess with people, and he's cremated in a cabinet in the living room. After my friend left the next day, I went up to the cabinet and told him to get lost. We rented a 2-story house with a basement, a few years back. Every morning at roughly 8:30 a.m., we would hear footsteps going down the stairs from the second floor to the basement. Eventually, we found a hidden room in the basement. The first time we entered, my wife's phone went into super static over loudspeaker mode for no apparent reason, then stopped. When I got married, I had a friend come over the night before, and we smoked some spice. Synthetic weed, or so it was sold as. Turns out it's much worse, and I'm very glad it didn't kill me. He told me about a ghost in the house that was following him around and telling him to leave, left physical scratch marks on him. The same night, we heard a knock on the second floor balcony, and we went to investigate. We could both very clearly see a corporeal form or a ghostly visage. However, we couldn't make out any specifically human anything other than its general human outline. Honestly, looking at it looked kinda like an almost invisible lightning globe thing you can get from Spencer's for $20, but that was literally walking around. Now, this isn't something that just I could see or that just he could see. We could both see him, in the same place, at the same time. He asked us if he could come inside. I already knew that it was a majorly bad idea. We were high, and we said yes. We watched him come inside and sit down. We cut on a movie. We would routinely look at him and then each other, both verifying that the other could very clearly see him, he was still there, and we were both seeing the same thing. To be clear, two very separate people were able to see and speak to the same ghostly being at the same time. Again, we could both see him and could watch him move around. I have heard of mass hallucinations before, and I can't help but feel like this could be that situation. We were high, after all. However, this was in a known haunted house. Two separate people could point out his exact location, completely separate from the other, at any point in time. There was never any disagreement on where he was. I can't stress this enough. We both thought we were going crazy and hallucinating at the time. We thus would each check the ghost's location with the other at random points in time, and at no point in time were either of us wrong. We were both very clearly able to see this thing the entire time. He only left after we went to bed. We still hear ghost footsteps every day, messed up electronics with no apparent cause, ghosts visually observed by multiple observers simultaneously for an extended period of time. I lived in a house near several cemeteries and some railroad tracks. I would sometimes wake up and see shadow-like people standing in my bedroom doorway. I dismissed it as my not quite awake brain manifesting things. I told my husband about seeing them and how I never felt unsafe and would just go back to sleep after the first couple of times. One day he came home from work and told me my ghost hitched a ride with him. I had this doily angel hanging on a doorknob that somehow ended up in the backseat of his car. It wasn't something that could have just accidentally gotten scooped up. I didn't see shadow people after that, so I guess something hitched a ride on out of there. I can go for days, but this is my favorite. Around the time I was 6, my mom and pops left to go south for vacation and left my teen sister in charge of my 8-year-old brother and me. My sister called her boyfriend over to spend a few nights with us. We already knew our house was freaky, so we all slept in the living room. But early one morning, while everyone was asleep, I got up to go to the bathroom. The living room is connected to the kitchen, and the kitchen leads to the bedrooms and bathroom. As I entered the kitchen, a guy was standing on my dining room table, engulfed in flames. He was dead as lit on actual fire. He was screaming and reacting in agony, but there was no noise coming from him. Just silence. I ran back to the living room and jumped on the couch hid under the covers until I fell asleep. Also, in the same house, I experienced running into a guy with a bright hat and trench coat. But he had no facial features. It was just white. He disappeared before my eyes as quick as he startled me. I've lived in this house for nearly 20 years, before anything happened. One night, I woke up and felt a male presence. I looked and saw a tall shadow figure in the corner of my room. It didn't do anything but stand there. This happened a couple more times before I told my mom, who said, "Yeah, there's spirits in their house, but they're good spirits." About 4 months went by, and it wasn't happening as much anymore. Then, one night I woke up to this figure leaning over my bed in my face. I freaked out and jumped up, screaming, but nothing came out. It was straight up those scenes in the movies where people wake up right before they get stabbed. Not my house, but my grandparents'. There was an airing cupboard that was too cold to be in their hothouse. You could feel the cold radiating from outside it. My bro dared me to go in it once. There was just this lack of noise. The cars outside went quiet. I couldn't hear my own breathing. When I called out for my bro, I could feel my voice vibrating in my throat, but nothing came out. It was absolutely terrifying. When I pulled open the door, my bro was white as a ghost. We ran downstairs and never went back upstairs again. I never asked him what upset him, but I honestly didn't want to know.